Hi Adorama, this is Vanessa Joy, and today I get to show you tons of wedding details. So I'm a wedding photographer, but normally when I do these, you don't have all the pretty little things. But today we have all the pretty little things because it's Adorama Inspire Week. If you don't know what's happening this week, get to adorama.com/inspire. Tons of great workshops, including this one, sorry, sold out, for tomorrow, where we are doing basically an entire wedding. So right now, we're gonna walk through how I photograph wedding details in the morning, how I photograph the dress, the shoes, the invitation, all the fun things. And then we're gonna talk about how to shoot. What else do we have out there? They're lighting candles. We have a reception table out there. And then I'm gonna show you how to shoot in really disgusting, ugly light, basically how to turn off the lights when the maitre d' won't let you turn off the lights and get pretty light out of this. So let's start here with the wedding details. We have beautiful, beautiful work. Just a couple of things. I did set this part up ahead of time because it's a little bit tedious, you know, when I set all these things up, but I want to point out some of the things that I've done. So off the bat, on the bottom here, this is a suede styling board by Kiss Books. I love this. It rolls up. I've got a pink one and a gray one. The pink one worked nice. I'm usually looking for a little bit of contrast. So I'm looking at the colors in the color family and see the grays in here. I find that to be important. And then also the shoes had some grays. So that's why I went with the gray background. Now I used to actually hate, guys, I used to hate styling boards. And the reason that I changed is because as I started designing albums, it just looks better when it's cohesive. It tells a better story. So shooting this with natural light, I have some florals here. If you can get florals ahead of time from the florist, that's amazing. You know, sometimes they're not getting ready in the same place that the florist is. You might not, but if you can, always helpful. So this one was actually down here. Helps to round it out, you know, and just make the whole album look good together. Now these, I could break this off. A lot of times I just break off the flower and put it there. You know what, I'll do that with this one. I think I want to use the orange one. So you break it off at the very top, just like that. It kind of hurts a little bit to do it. You get sad, and then like place it. So let's start shooting. Now, I'm shooting with the 50mm 1.2. I do like a shallow depth of field, but when I'm shooting these details, I need to be able to read the names and have things in focus. So I'm gonna shoot around 3.2 on my aperture. This is the Canon 1D Mark II, by the way. I know I have a transmitter on here, that's for later. You know what, I'll just take it off so I won't confuse anybody here. There we go. I'm gonna use live view to get my exposure. And I'm doing it to get my white balance as well, which my white balance is right about 5500. And my exposure looks pretty good. I'm at 800 ISO, 100 shutter, and 3.2 on the aperture. All right, let's see if I can, it's like picture in picture. It's so much fun. There we go. All right, so let's go ahead and shoot. First thing I'm gonna shoot is just the overall. And I don't do a lot of this, guys. I'm gonna shoot one, and if it looks good and it's in focus, like we're done, move on, all right? So then I come in and I shoot the little parts, the wax emblem. I'll come over here and I'll shoot specifically their names. That looks good, and then maybe this little flower, some of the other little details. That just look good. And I know the flower's not super special, but when you put it together in the album, you have the full picture of what's going on here. You've got a close-up of their names and then a close-up of the flower. It adds more color to the spread and helps to tell a story. Now, if you don't have a lay flat like this, let me show you the pictures so you can actually see. All right, so we got our full one. Then we've got little detail with their names, another little detail, all right? If you don't have that, you're just gonna look for some kind of surface like this, all right? So I've got another little setup with some stationery here. You just want to find something that isn't too distracting. So I'm going to come over here, and since it's not that colorful, you want to have things that you can use in your foreground. So this works. I've seen people do this just with like their fingers. You can do anything with this. Can I grab that reflector? There's not as much light. I'm going to come this way. So we've got this Lasto light reflector. This thing is awesome. We're going to use the white side just to put in a little bit filling in the shadows. And then what I have is my cell phone. I didn't just accidentally put my cell phone here. It's here on purpose. When you have just kind of a more boring plane, you know, maybe not boring, but more plain, you don't have all these extra little things. What you want to do instead is highlight the important part, maybe like the invitation here where their names are, by raising it. So I take my cell phone and I put it underneath. And let's just put it like underneath there. It does create a little bit of shadows, but it's just going to help separate it and give your photos a little bit more depth. All right. Then I'm going to take my greenery. We'll get my basic exposure. It's a little bit darker over here. So let's go into 1000 on my ISO. And now I'm going to take the greenery and I'm going to put it in front. So you kind of have to see like where you want it. That's not bad. Let's take a couple more. There we go. Hold on, let me get this. All right. So you just get it where you just get like these little tiny parts. I don't want it covering anything, but just where maybe I'm naturally vignetting it, creating a little bit more depth. All right, so that's what it looks like when I photograph the invitation. Let's go photograph some more stuff. Gonna leave my mess. Oh, wait, transmitter, 85. All right, so in here, we're gonna have 100 photographers here for Adorama Inspire. Hey, this is Kristen, she's responsible for all of this. And here we are. This is our reception setup. We'll come back to that. First thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna photograph this gorgeous dress. This dress is from Kleinfeld. All right, I'm gonna photograph here on the setup that we have for our bride and groom. So let's see, can I get this? I can. All right, so I'm always looking obviously for a higher spot. Now, when you photograph the dress, don't just photograph it as a whole. You want to photograph the different parts of it as well. I think we're pretty good with natural light here. It's a little bit dark, but I'm going to photograph the dress probably around 1.4. Let's take a test shot. Yeah, that looks pretty good. So we're starting off with photographing the dress. Now, anytime you photograph details, think wide, medium, and tight. It'll just help. How can we get it better? There we go. That's a little better. All right. It'll just help tell the story a little bit better. So I got my wide overall, and my settings are 1600 ISO, 1.4 aperture, 100 on my shutter, and 4000 on my ISO. So now that I got the wide shot, I'm going to come in a little bit closer, get a medium, and then I'm going to come in even closer and get just the little details here. So when I have all three, you just picture these. There we go. 1, 2, 3, side by side in an album. And think of, you know, the more pictures you have, the more detail you can actually see, the more spreads you'll sell, and the better story you'll tell. All right, let's move over to the reception table.
Can you go over the settings for that again?
Yeah, so those were 1600 ISO, which is a little bit high, but not bad for this camera. This camera can handle it. 1.4 on my aperture and 100 on the shutter speed, and 4000 for the white balance.
In which lens?
51.2. All right, now photographing the reception. I photograph an overall shot first. Again, think wide, medium, tight. So I'm gonna start with that. We've got dresses, we're still setting up. We got dresses and everything here. All right, so let's get our first. Now, if I could shoot this with the 85, I absolutely would because I love the compression, but don't think I'm gonna be able to. Nope, so we got our first one. We're just shooting natural light. After this, I'm gonna show you how to do some flash. All right, now I'm gonna switch to the 85 lens. So I love my 50, but the 85, it's just going to create more of a feeling where you're really in the environment. And especially when I have multiple tables that I can shoot through and things that I can shoot through, the 85 compresses it all together. I shoot most of my table details with the 85. So let's take a look. Table details is probably one of the most important things as you shoot. as a wedding photographer, this is one of the main things that magazine publications look for, or blogs or Instagram, when they're deciding whether or not they're gonna publish your photos. So you want to take as many pictures as you possibly can. So we did our wide. Let's go ahead and do our close-ups. And I'm gonna keep pretty much the same settings. I always start on one side of the table and then work my way halfway around. There's not usually a point in going all the way around because you photograph the same thing on both sides. So it's obvious that you want to photograph things like the table setting. I'm going to go ahead and do that. I think I need to go down to 3,400 on my white balance. All right, so I photographed the table setting this way. I should have left that up for you. All right, a little bit more of an angle, so it has a little bit of depth to it. From this angle, I'm also going to photograph the champagne glasses. And then I'm going to photograph the middle flowers. So a lot of people, and it's fine to photograph, you know, just like right here and photograph the front, but that's a very flat photo. As opposed, if I go a little bit closer and shoot through some things, now I have a photo that's a close-up that's a little bit more interesting. All right, so here, there we go, kind of going in a little bit more, just a little bit more interesting than just a flat photo. So think layers. Think you want something in the front, in the middle, and in the back. It's gonna make the table look a lot more full, especially if you're not photographing a table as beautiful as this one. I'm very spoiled right now. I know not all of our weddings look like this, mine certainly don't. But when you layer photos like that and you shoot through things, you're gonna make it look more full, like there's more stuff there, like it's, I don't know, just more bountiful, right? Weddings want to be bountiful, I think. All right, so let's keep going. So this is another example. I want to photograph that candle with the flowers right there. I'm going to use this hanging as my foreground. So make sure that's in the front. Have to go on tippy toes to do it. There we go. Perfect. And you can see there, a little bit crooked, but you get the idea. We've got the nice foreground up here, and then we can see what's actually in focus down there. All right, so as I go through, this is what I'm doing, just kind of going on every little detail. So you want to photograph the flowers. You want to make sure if there's linen here and it's not just white linen, highlight this. They paid extra for this. So actually coming close, this is a perfect example of what shooting through is. So I could photograph just the linen here, or I could crouch down and make sure that the chair is in the foreground. And look at the difference. It's nice, it's pretty, the way it is there, but the second you add that foreground there, it just adds a little bit more dimension. How do we get this to, there we go. Just gotta put my belly in it. So see the foreground on the bottom as opposed to there. This tells me that there's more happening as opposed to just plain, all right? So you go through, you shoot all of that, every candle, every glass, every piece of flatware, every tiny little thing. I photographed the backs of the chairs, everything. And this is so beautiful. I could stay here all day, but I want to show you guys one more thing. Oh, and another thing that I do, take your menu and place it somewhere. It's nice when it's here and you could photograph it, you know, from the side, you could come above, but I like to pick it up and actually place it somewhere. So then again, I can take this, and now this is my foreground. And then I've got background there as well. Yeah. All right, so I've got, what do? We did this. Think back up a little, there. Cool, so we got foreground, the little sprigs on the bottom, then there, and then the background. There we go. All right, so let's put this back all nicely for everyone who's coming to Inspire tomorrow. And we're gonna go to one more spot over here. Now, I had a situation at a groom's house where this happened recently, and it was just this awful light that couldn't be changed. And that couldn't be changed, we're gonna show you how to change it, but just didn't look good. All we have is this one like magenta, disgusting light up here, casting this awful, very harsh shadow here, and I want to change that. And I just have to kick some Kleinfeld's dresses to the side to have to do that. Can you grab the 50? I think I'm gonna, yeah. We're gonna switch back to the 50. All right, so let me show you what this would look like if I just photographed it as is. And by the way, we're photographing this bouquet. This is a bouquet, guys. Look at this. Oh my goodness. So nice. It's gonna look so good. This is by Lisa from A Touch of Elegance. So if you're here in the New York, New Jersey area, this is the woman. So amazing. All right, so let me show you what this would look like if we just photographed it as is. Watch me not be able to get this back. Okay. Stay. All right, if we just photograph this as is, oh man, it's bad already. All right, just getting my exposure with live view. And then let's take a shot so you can see. Okay, so it looks like this. It's not that great. It's not that soft. It's pretty harsh. All right, you got kind of ugly, harsh light. It's pretty subject, but it's just not that flattering. And the reason it's like that is because what's lighting it is just this one tiny little light. And the smaller it is, the harsher the light is gonna be, the harder the light is gonna be. So what I wanna do first is I wanna turn these lights off, but I can't. So I'm gonna do it with my exposure. I'm gonna go all the way down to 100 ISO. And let's go with 250 on my shutter, and it looks like 3.5 on my aperture. You know what, I don't want it that, I'm gonna go down to L on my ISO because I really want to turn off the lights, but I don't want 3.2 on my aperture. I want it to be a little bit more shallow, so now I'm at 2.5. All right, so there's a little bit of light, but not much. It's pretty much just a black frame for the most part. This is brightening it up, of course. Let's go to 2.8, all right? So mostly black frame, that's step one if you're gonna turn off all the lights. The second thing is you wanna turn on the lights that you want to use. So for me right now, that's a Profoto B10. We've got that set up here, and we have a 3-foot Octa. The bigger your light source is, it's like putting this bouquet next to a really big window. You know when you put something next to a big window, it's nice, soft, beautiful light, at least in my opinion. And transmitter, did I put it on already? I didn't. We need this. This is what triggers our light. This is the Profoto Air Remote for Canon. There we go. All right, so I'm just gonna throw that on, and I'm gonna put it on TTL. I could light meter it, but you know, who has time for these things? All right, is that on A or B? Okay, perfect. All right, so I'm gonna do TTL and just take a shot and see what it looks like. All right, looks okay so far. A few things I want to improve. One, this is very, very blue. And the reason is I blued down my white balance so that I could deal with the lights that are existing in the space. But now it's too blue because the light on the B10 is around 5600 Kelvin. So I'm just gonna go right with my white balance to 5600 Kelvin. You could also set it to the flash preset. All right, and now that'll be warmer. The second thing I want to do is it was too dark on one side. So I'm gonna take my reflector and we're just gonna reflect the light from our other light back. So we're gonna hold it right about there. Not changing the power settings. In fact, I'm gonna go from TTL on my remote and switch to manual. So it's gonna keep the power setting that it decided was good. I might change it in a minute, but we'll see, we'll start here. So now we can take that photo. There we go. Look at the difference. So we started here, right there, and then now we're warmed up, correctly exposed. The shadow is not nearly as harsh on this side. Much better, much softer. I think that looks pretty good. So now what I do is I keep that there, and I do this when I'm lighting receptions too. I have what I need, and then I just walk around and shoot what I want. Kind of little details, nice up and close, different angles, and don't be afraid to go to the other side. It is gonna silhouette it a little bit, but if I come over here and kind of shoot this way, maybe even let a little bit of flare in, might look cool. Yeah, I'm not mad about that. You know, depending on your style of photography too. This is a little bit more dark and moody versus over here. where it's a little bit more flat and you don't see so much of the shadows. All right, there we go. And that's more my style versus the darker one. There we go, now you can see it's a little bit darker. All right, so that's how you would operate if you had to turn out the lights. So think anything. Think you had a groom getting ready in a spot where he's standing here and like, this is the really ugly light. This is horrible on me right now. You don't have to worry about it. Turn off the lights with your exposure, set up the light you actually want, and fire away. You make sure it stays on manual so it doesn't move as you move around, and you're set. All right, so hopefully you guys will be here for Adorama Inspire tomorrow. There's more stuff over here if you want to look. Look at the ceremony setup we got going on over here. That's going to be awesome. There's the engagement session one over here. This is my station. This is where I'm going to teach. I'm going to show you how to use natural light. I'm going to show you how to turn day into night. It'll be great. But if you're not coming to Inspire with me tomorrow, you can go to adorama.com/inspire, and there are a ton of other classes and panels. Most of them are free, so get off your butts, come to New York City, and we'll see you there. And I'll see you next time. Bye.